Imagine throwing just a massive multi-million-dollar party.
Right.
100,000 people show up. The stadium is packed to the absolute rafters. The music is deafening, and, the energy is just electric.
Sounds like a great time.
Yeah, but here's the catch. When you check the television broadcast of this incredible event, almost nobody is watching from their couch.
Oh, wow.
I mean, literally, a late-night regular season hockey game between two struggling teams is pulling in more viewers.
that's a glaring paradox.
Exactly. And that bizarre paradox is exactly what is happening in the world of men's professional golf today.
The whole landscape is completely fractured. And the underlying data we're seeing right now, it reveals a sport that is basically pulling its audience in two completely different directions simultaneously.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we are looking at that very landscape. For you as a fan, the chaotic, the Civil War phase of professional golf,
Yeah.
the lawsuits, the defectors, the bitter press conferences that is largely over. Right. We have officially entered the integration phase.
Yeah, we really have.
So our mission today is to examine a massive stack of recent sources. We've got official announcements from the official World Golf Ranking Board, deep dive television ratings, and some sweeping structural changes from both Livy Golf and the PGA Tour.
It's a lot to get through.
It is.
Yeah.
But we want to help you understand how new competitive formats and these global broadcast developments are, shaping the future of the game worldwide.
Because if you just skim the headlines, you might assume, one league is dominating while the other is dying.
Right. Which isn't the whole truth.
Exactly. When you actually dig into the mechanics of these new formats and the raw viewership data, you uncover a much more complex story about how the global sports business actually operates.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand the future of golf, we have to start with the ruling that just legitimized this current divide.
Yeah, the February decision.
Right. On February 3, 2026, after years of rejections, the official World Golf Ranking, the OWGR, made a monumental decision to finally award ranking points to Livy Golf.
Which was huge.
Yeah.
The OWGR board, which is chaired by Trevor Immelman, they concluded a 7-month evaluation and finally brought Livy into the system. But this is but they categorized it specifically as a small field tournament.
Small field tournament.
Right. And the mechanics of that categorization are pretty severe. Under this new ruling, only the top 10 finishers, including ties, in any given LIV event actually receive world ranking points.
Wait, only the top 10?
Only the top 10.
So if we look at the math on that, the winner of a Levy event, take their season opener in Riyadh, for example, earns roughly 23 points.
Yeah, about 23.
To give you some context, 23 points is comparable to winning a standard DP World Tour event in Europe.
Or winning an opposite field event on the PGA Tour.
Right. And just to clarify for everyone, an opposite field event is a secondary tournament held on the exact same weekend as a massive championship, meaning the top 50 stars in the world aren't even playing in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Levy's leadership, as you might expect, released a very pointed statement calling this top 10 limit unprecedented.
I bet they did.
Yeah. Their core grievance is purely mathematical.
Yeah.
I mean, in a field packed with former major champions, a player who grinds through 3 days to finish in 11th place gets the exact same amount of ranking points as the guy who finishes dead last in 57th place.
0.
0 points.
It's like grading on a steep curve where only the A+ students get credit and the B students get the exact same 0 as the kids who just skipped class entirely.
That's a perfect way to put it.
But I have to push back here a little bit. Is it actually a fair metric of global talent if an elite player finishes 11th in a field of major champions and gets, mathematically erased for the week?
This raises an important question. Is the world ranking system supposed to measure absolute isolated player skill, or is it supposed to measure adherence to a specific structural format?
Ah, right. Structure versus skill.
Exactly. And the OWGR board argues fiercely for the latter. Their mandate is to protect the thousands of professional golfers grinding on 24 other tours around the globe.
Guys who are fighting just to make the cut.
Right, guys who have to make a 36-hole cut just to earn a paycheck and put food on the table. Livy still operates with no-cut events.
Yeah.
The OWGR also pointed out that Livy operates largely as a closed shop. I mean, while Livy does offer a few spots through the Asian Tour, players are primarily recruited.
Offered contracts.
Exactly. They get contracts rather than earning their place through a purely open, meritocratic qualifying system.
So this top 10 rule acts as sort of a pressure valve.
How do you mean?
Well, it allows the absolute superstars on Levy, the ones consistently winning, to maintain their major championship eligibility. But it doesn't force the OWGR to completely abandon its foundational rules regarding cuts and field sizes.
That is the compromise.
Yeah.
But, Levy couldn't just demand those ranking points and expect the golf establishment to roll over. They had to prove their players were actually fighting for survival. And to do that, they had to fundamentally alter their own DNA to meet the establishment halfway.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Philly is abandoning the very thing they were named after.
Yeah, this is wild.
The Roman numeral Levy literally translates to 54, representing their 54-hole tournament structure.
Which was their whole identity.
Right. But for the 2026 season, they are dropping that completely to play traditional 72-hole tournaments. I have to wonder, does conforming to 72 holes kill their unique disruptor identity? I mean, it feels like a massive surrender of their brand.
Honestly, it is an incredibly awkward surrender. You don't just change the foundational premise of your brand name unless you are desperate for OWGR validation and long-term viability.
Yeah, it screams desperation a little bit.
It does. But structurally, adding that fourth round aligns them with the broader professional golf calendar. It introduces the physical and mental fatigue that really defines Sunday pressure in traditional golf.
That makes sense.
More importantly, though, this shift signals that Levy is pivoting its entire business model. They are moving out of the initial recruitment phase and into a franchise investment phase.
And the structural changes they made to the standings are clearly designed to force that franchise mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
They expanded their field to 57 players, and they completely weaponized relegation.
Yeah, the relegation stakes are huge now.
They expanded the lock zone to the top 34 players, guaranteeing their spots for next year. But they also expanded the drop zone to players finishing 47th through 57th.
Which satisfies the OWGR's demand for more turnover and meritocracy.
Yeah.
But the underlying mechanism of this franchise phase is really all about the financials.
Tell me about the money.
Well, Levy doubled the weekly team prize payouts to $10 million, and now all 13 teams earn prize money each week, not just the top 3.
Oh, wow. Everyone gets a piece.
Yeah. They also introduced a $2.3 million podium pool, which financially rewards individual players who contribute to a top 3 team finish. This pushes the total season purse to a staggering $470 million.
Let's explore how that actually changes the golf being played. Because in a traditional PGA Tour event, if a player is sitting in, say, 40th place on a Sunday, they are completely out of contention for the trophy.
Right, they're just playing out the string.
Exactly. They might play conservatively just to protect their score, guarantee a mid-tier paycheck, and head to the airport. How does team equity fundamentally alter that psychology?
It changes everything about the decision-making process on the course. In Levy's new model, that same player sitting in 40th place individually might be on a team that is tied for first.
Oh, right.
Suddenly, that player cannot play conservatively. They have to take a highly risky shot over water, aiming right at the pin, because their team needs a birdie to win a share of that $10 million purse.
That is a completely different kind of pressure.
It is. In the early days, Levy relied on astronomical upfront signing bonuses to lure players.
Yeah.
But, that well isn't infinite.
Right. The Sovereign Wealth Fund can't just hand out blank checks forever.
Exactly.
To create a sustainable product, LAV needs its teams to function like NFL or Premier League franchises. They need players to care deeply about their teammates' scores because generating team equity through sponsorships, merchandise, and eventually selling the franchises, that is how the league will survive long term.
So all of these format changes, the grueling 72 holes, the relegation stakes, the massive team financials, they are all designed to do one thing: attract eyeballs.
Right.
But when we dive into the viewership data from our sources, the audience reception presents a really glaring contradiction.
What's fascinating here is the absolute disconnect between the television viewer in the United States and the live event attendee globally. The numbers describe two completely different realities.
Yeah, the television ratings in the U.S. are disastrous for LIV when you put them head-to-head with the PGA Tour.
Disastrous is putting it mildly.
The data shows that on a typical Sunday, the PGA Tour averages 3.1 million viewers across CBS and NBC.
Okay.
Livy Golf, broadcasting on FOX, FS1, or FS2, averages about 175,000 viewers.
That is nearly an 18-to-1 advantage for the PGA Tour. 175,000 viewers for a sports broadcast featuring some of the most famous athletes on Earth is almost incomprehensible.
It's a tiny fraction of the mainstream sports audience.
Yeah.
But you have to think about the traditional American golf fan. They have a deeply ingrained habit.
Sunday nap.
Exactly. They want to lay on their couch on a Sunday afternoon, listen to soft commentary, and watch a quiet, methodical broadcast. Live's loud, chaotic presentation completely clashes with that habitual viewing pattern.
But then you look at the other side of the coin. While the U.S. TV audience is just changing the channel, LIV is setting staggering in-person attendance records around the world.
The live numbers are incredible.
Our sources show 102,000 fans showing up in Adelaide, Australia.
Over 100,000.
Yeah. 60,000 fans in Indianapolis, packed, record-breaking crowds in Chicago.
To understand that paradox, you really have to look at how Live is positioning its global broadcast strategy. They aren't just relying on American linear television there.
Right, they can't afford to.
Right. They are executing a massive international broadcast effort intended to reach 1 billion households across 200 territories. They're securing aggressive deals with TNT in the UK, Viaplay in the Nordics, and Sky Sport in Germany.
And they're fundamentally changing the mechanics of how the broadcast looks, right? To appeal to a totally different demographic.
Yeah, they recently introduced Chip.
Oh, the AI caddy.
Yes. Chip is an AI agent caddy powered by Salesforce. It digests real-time player data, wind speed, and course conditions to generate predictive analytics right on the screen.
That sounds like a video game.
It does. It feels less like a traditional golf broadcast and much more like a video game interface designed for a younger, digitally native audience.
So when you synthesize the U.S. ratings failure with the global attendance explosion and this high-tech broadcast UI, the strategy becomes really clear.
Yeah, LIV is functioning highly successfully as a live festival property and an international broadcast product.
Yeah.
They are throwing massive high-energy parties in golf-starved global markets.
So LIV is essentially that cult favorite touring band.
What do you mean?
Like, they can sell out a massive stadium in Adelaide and the crowd goes absolutely wild singing every word, but they can't get a single song played on mainstream U.S. radio.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
And it highlights why the PGA Tour's dominance in the U.S. market isn't necessarily a death knell for all LIV.
Right.
Just as LIV's global attendance isn't a death knell for the PGA Tour. They're serving two entirely different consumer behaviors in two different ecosystems.
Well, with LIV stabilizing that global footprint, the PGA Tour is certainly not resting on its laurels and just admiring its domestic TV ratings.
Oh, definitely not.
They are completely redesigning their own competitive formats to compete in this divided world.
Yeah, because the formal merger between the two entities, the one that dominated the news cycle back in 2023, that is largely stalled.
Right, it's just been stuck in limbo.
Exactly. Recognizing that they need to evolve independently, the PGA Tour is taking drastic measures to protect its premium product.
We are seeing PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolap working alongside Tiger Woods and the Future Competition Committee, designing a radical new schedule for 2028.
And the guiding principles they are explicitly targeting are parity, scarcity, and simplicity.
Scarcity being the crucial mechanical shift there.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the PGA Tour is basically doubling down on historical prestige.
They are proposing a dual-tier model for 2028, right?
Yes. So Level 1 would feature 21 to 26 elite events. These would have 120 player fields and a rigorous cut line.
Okay, so that's the premium tier.
Exactly. Then Level 2 would feature fall and off-week events that essentially act as direct qualifiers for that elite tier.
Okay, so by creating this highly exclusive Level 1 tier, they are trying to consolidate their absolute best talent into fewer, more meaningful events.
Right. It solves the fan confusion of the past few years, making the product much simpler to follow. You know exactly which tournaments matter and where the top stars will be playing.
But wait, if the PGA Tour creates this ultra-exclusive Level 1 tier, where only the top guys play for the biggest purses, aren't they just creating their own version of a closed-loop league to fight Levy?
The structural irony is definitely there.
Yeah, it sounds hypocritical.
Well, the PGA Tour spent years criticizing Levy for being a closed shop, and their competitive response is to create a much more exclusive shop of their own.
Right.
However, the Tour points to the mechanics of their Level 2 tier as the key differentiator. They maintain a rigorous meritocratic pathway.
Meaning you can actually play your way in.
Exactly. If a player performs well in Level 2, they directly earn their way into Level 1. It is a continuous cycle of earning your spot, which perfectly satisfies the OWGR criteria.
So while these two tours are building higher walls around their respective leagues, the major championships, the 4 biggest tournaments in golf, are adjusting their own gates.
And this is huge for the players.
The Masters recently announced huge qualification changes for 2026. They are officially stripping automatic invites from the winners of the fall PGA Tour events.
which is a massive blow to those events.
Definitely. Instead, they are granting qualification to the winners of multiple international national opens.
The mechanics of how a player manages their career just completely changed.
How so?
Because the OWGR points for Levy events are so severely limited to only the top 10, and because the PGA Tour is becoming much more exclusive with its dual-tier model, players from both tours are going to be forced to travel globally.
Oh, to hunt for points.
Exactly. You're going to see elite players flocking to the Australian Open, the South African Open, and the Japan Golf Tour just to circumvent the tour divide, earn those crucial ranking points, and secure their spots in the majors.
It's going to be a global scramble.
It really is.
So what does this all mean for you as a fan? When we zoom out and look at this newly drawn map of professional golf, the war isn't ending.
No, it's not.
We aren't going back to the clean, unified monopoly of 2021. The sport has simply found its new normal. We now have two distinct, parallel global entities operating with their own unique competitive formats, their own wildly different economic models, and their own dedicated, if separate, fan bases.
And that reality leaves you with a really profound thought to mull over.
What's that?
If the four major championships, the Masters, the U.S. Open, the Open Championship, and the PGA Championship, if they are now the only place where these two bifurcated worlds collide, has this multi-billion-dollar civil war, ironically just made them the most valuable and indispensable properties in the history of the sport.
Wow, it's like the Avengers assembling, but only 4 times a year.
Exactly. It elevates the majors to a level of importance we've never seen before.
It really makes you think the map has been completely redrawn, and those 4 weeks are the only times we get to see the full picture.
Absolutely.
Well, that is all for today's deep dive. If you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us continue creating and delivering content like this for you in the future.